What do you think is the single most important invention in human history? Seriously, think about it. Is it the wheel, fire, maybe the internet? Well, what if I told you the greatest invention wasn't a thing at all, but an idea? An idea so powerful it completely changed who we are, turning us from wandering animals into the builders of our own world. Let's go find out where it all began.
Okay, so what was it? It's not a tool you can hold or a technology you can point to. The most profound innovation we ever came up with was just a revolutionary new way of looking at our relationship with the planet. It was the simple, world-changing decision to stop chasing our food and for the very first time, to grow it ourselves.
You see, before we could build anything, before we could even dream of cities or laws or art, we had to solve the most basic, brutal problem there is: survival. For hundreds of thousands of years, human life was just a constant, desperate search for the next meal. Life was short, it was dangerous, and it was all about finding enough calories to see the next sunrise.
And this slide, wow, it really lays out the two different worlds. On one side, you've got the hunter-gatherer, always on the move, always on the edge of starvation. And on the other, the farmer, rooted to one spot, building a community, and, this is the key, producing a surplus of food. This wasn't just a change in diet, it was a total rewiring of how humans thought, from moment-to-moment survival to long-term planning.
And this is it, the agricultural revolution. This was the idea that changed absolutely everything. Farming meant we could finally invest in one place, build something that would last, and actually plan for a future. For the first time ever, we had a surplus, more food than we needed just to get by. And that surplus, that is the seed from which everything else we call civilization grows.
So, with a steady food supply, people started settling down in bigger and bigger groups. But this amazing success created a brand new, super complex problem. How on earth do you organize thousands of people living together? For the answer, we've got to go back in time to Mesopotamia, which was basically the world's first laboratory for city living. They wrote the blueprint.
So let's go there. We're in the Fertile Crescent, this amazing strip of land in what's now modern-day Iraq, fed by two massive rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. It was right here, in this land between two rivers, that the first true cities, made out of sun-baked mud bricks, started rising up from the ground around 3500 BCE.
So, what exactly takes a big village and turns it into a full-blown civilization? Well, historians usually point at this recipe, these 7 key ingredients. You've got to have cities to hold all the people. You need specialized jobs, so not everyone has to be a farmer. You need government and laws to keep things from falling into chaos. And of course, you need writing, social classes, technology. These weren't random things. They were all solutions to the new problems that come from living together on a massive scale.
And right in the heart of every one of these Mesopotamian cities, you'd find a ziggurat, a huge, stepped temple reaching up to the sky. This wasn't just a building. It was the city's spiritual and economic command center. People genuinely believed their city's god lived right there, which gave the priests and rulers incredible power. It was the physical anchor of their entire society.
Okay, so you've got thousands of people living right on top of each other. Fights are going to happen. Who owns this piece of land? What if someone steals my stuff? How do we solve our problems without just, beating each other up? The next huge challenge was to invent a system to manage the chaos of society itself.
I'm sure you've heard this phrase, right? An eye for an eye. It's a principle of justice that has echoed down through thousands of years, and it comes from one of the most important legal documents in history, Hammurabi's Code. This was the world's first really comprehensive set of written laws, and it was created in the city of Babylon.
And here's the really crucial part. The law definitely created order, but it was not about equality, not even close. The punishment completely depended on who you were. Look at this. If you hurt a noble, it could literally cost you your own eye. But if you hurt a slave, you just paid a fine. This code wasn't just about justice, it was designed to keep that social pyramid locked in place. So how did they keep track of all these laws? With cuneiform, the world's very first system of writing. Using a reed, they would press these little wedge-shaped marks into wet clay, and then they'd bake it. And suddenly, they could record everything: laws, business deals, even epic stories. Writing was like the original software that ran civilization. It let them store and pass down complex knowledge for generations, something we totally take for granted today. But here's the thing about Mesopotamia. It was a tough neighborhood. Its history is this dramatic, rolling story of one group conquering another. The Sumerians, they laid the groundwork. Then the Acadians came in and created the first empire.
The Babylonians gave us those laws, and then the Assyrians built this terrifying military machine that just dominated everyone. Each group built on what the last one did, but in this volatile land, no empire lasted forever.
So while all that chaos is happening in Mesopotamia, another incredible civilization was growing to the southwest. But this one was going to follow a very different path. It wasn't shaped by constant war, but by the predictable, life-giving pulse of one single mighty river. Let's go to Egypt. This right here, this tells you everything you need to know about how geography can shape the very soul of a civilization. In Mesopotamia, the rivers were violent and random, which led to a worldview that life is chaotic. But the Nile, it was the exact opposite. Its floods were gentle, predictable, like clockwork. Every single year, they bought this fresh layer of rich soil that guaranteed a good harvest. And this deep sense of cosmic order shaped everything about Egyptian culture.
And you can see that sense of order plain as day in their social structure. At the very top, you have the pharaoh, who wasn't just a king, he was seen as a living god, the guy who kept the universe in balance. And below him, everybody had their specific place, from the top priests all the way down to the farmers whose hard work fed the entire country. To them, this wasn't unfair, it was just the way you kept society stable for thousands of years.
But the true obsession of Egyptian culture, the engine that drove their most incredible achievements, was the afterlife. They believed death was just a doorway. To make sure you got through that doorway successfully, they invented the incredibly complex art of mummification to preserve your body. And for their pharaohs, their god-kings, they built the pyramids, the most ambitious and long-lasting tombs in all of human history, all to protect them on their journey to the next world. You know, it's pretty easy to look at these ancient civilizations and think of them as distant, almost alien, like something lost to time. But what if I told you that we're still living in their world? That the solutions they figured out are still echoing in our lives every single day? Okay, think about a basic human need, sending a message. In ancient Sumeria, you don't have paper, you don't have ink. So what's the solution? It's genius, really. You press wedge-shaped marks into a heavy slab of wet clay, and you bake it in the sun. Boom, a permanent record.
Now, fast forward to today. The technology is worlds apart, right? We're tapping on glass screens, sending messages around the globe in a split second. But the core idea, the fundamental problem we're solving, is exactly the same: the need to communicate across time and space. Or how about this one? How do you create order in a huge, bustling city? In Babylon, the solution was epic. They carved 282 laws onto a massive stone pillar and put it right in the middle of the city, for everyone to see. For the first time in history, justice wasn't just someone's opinion, it was written in stone.
You're looking at the great-great-great-grandfather of every constitution, every law book, every courtroom on the planet today. The very idea that laws should be written down, be public, and apply to everyone, that is the foundation of the rule of law, and it started right there, with that big rock in ancient Babylon. So, why does any of this matter? It matters because our world is literally built on top of theirs. Our ideas about law, writing, cities, government, they're all just updates to the original operating system these ancient people invented. We're still running on their foundational software, just with a much fancier user interface. They faced their challenges: survival, order, finding meaning, and they engineered the solutions that became civilization. The question this history leaves for us is a pretty powerful one. We've inherited their world, their solutions, and yeah, some of their problems too. So, what are we going to build with it?